Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Terry Fletcher.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the WTF podcast brought to you by Steel City Underground. My name is Terry Fletcher. So what week are we in for football? We are in week 3, and this is a ridiculous week. I don't know if any of you got to see a lot of this stuff, but if you have the Red Zone channel, which I'm sorry if you do because it is not great anymore without Andrew Siciliano and the whiplash you get from how quickly they go from one screen to another. It's terrible this year. I don't know what they were thinking. But here's week 3. So first of all, you just have to start with the Miami Dolphins. They were playing the Denver Broncos, and everyone thought with Sean Payton going to the Denver Broncos as, you know, the former New Orleans coach, that he was going to be able to turn around Russell Wilson. He was going to come out with a great defense. Miami scored 70 points against the Denver Broncos. Now, I didn't say 7. I didn't say 17. I said 7-0. 70. What the football? How often does that happen? Not often. The last time that we've had a 70-point game in NFL history, there's only been 4, was when Washington scored 72 versus the Giants in 1966. That's my birth year. Yeah, that was a long time ago. It is crazy right now just to see that kind of overkill. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, if you watch the Broncos offense this season, there was no chance. I mean, there was no way they were going to win a shootout against the Dolphins. And this game, I mean, it just wasn't going to happen. And they just had no answers for the Dolphins offense. They really look like a sinking ship right now in the AFC. And the Dolphins have what some people out there are calling an unstoppable juggernaut. You know, Tua looks definitely different, and he's throwing passes, or he's doing a really good job with completions. But here's what really stood out in that game. They have a running back, Devon Achane, I think he's a rookie, 203 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns total. He got some through the air. And then their other running back, Raheem Mostert, combining 350 yards on the ground, and he had 4 touchdowns. They had 2 running backs that had 8 touchdowns combined. So they had 726 yards in offense. That is ridiculous. I mean, what can you do with that? But if you're the Broncos, nothing, apparently. Now, the other game that just for me was a WTF, we saw the end of it, and I just don't know what to do with it. They played the Chargers. They lost to the Chargers 28-24. The Chargers were not playing that great. They have not come up with any big stops this year. The defense is okay, but what really just stood out for me is what happened with, 30 seconds left, and the Chargers kept turning over the ball. And yes, the Vikings have turned it over as well, but there was a final shot into the end zone, and they had a chance to win the game. They were actually at, I think, 1st and goal, and they botched their clock management. I'm sitting there on the couch. I'm like, clock it, call timeout. They even had a timeout left. And then they have Kirk Cousins pass, and it was bumped by their tight end and picked off. But they had over 30 seconds left. They had 2 timeouts, and they could have absolutely scored a touchdown. So I just don't understand why they didn't watch the clock, why they didn't run the ball, a couple of times to get in. I mean, that is a lot of time. And when you're sitting there 0-2, you need the win. So Kirk Cousins had a decent game until the last, we hate to call it a brain fart, but that's totally what it was. And I blame it on the coach. Kirk, I'm sorry, I've been trying to give you a free pass here, but that was a what the football moment. I mean, I know there was a lot of chaos, but you clock the ball, give yourself a chance, regroup, and, catch the Chargers off guard and run it in. Anyway, it was not good. Buffalo 37-3 over Washington, and that was just a complete, blowout. There was nothing there. For me, that was surprising. I think Houston 37-17 over Jacksonville. Whoa, what happened there? So, Jacksonville's had a couple of bad games, and some of their missed field goals with Brandon McManus, and they've allowed blocked field goals, kickoff returns for touchdowns, and they pile up so many. They let everybody have so many yards, 400 yards on the other side of the ball. And so everyone that had the Jaguars defense in their fantasy football got a -1. Yeah, that was awesome. We love that. So it wasn't good. Now, Tennessee Titans, you had one job. That was to beat Cleveland. As a Steeler fan, AFC North, we got a tough division. And could you do it? No. Cleveland 27-3 over the Titans. Now, remember, Cleveland lost their running back. And so what did they do? They brought back in an old running back. And so he looked decent. I mean, they don't have their star player anymore, which is unfortunate. But we heard that Nick Chubb's injury isn't as bad as once thought. He will probably most likely be out for the season, but it's not career ending. It's going to be season ending. But they brought back Kareem Hunt. They've also got a player named Jerome Ford that does a decent job for them. So they were able to again win 27-3 over Titans. But it's amazing to see what everyone says Ryan Tannehill, did over, the previous quarterback that was there. And I feel bad. And so he just can't do anything right now. It's just sad out there in Tennessee. Indianapolis. Okay. We like you to this week. Okay. Thank you for beating Baltimore in OT. And they really played quite a good game. So they weren't able to completely stop Lamar Jackson, but they had several big plays, 4 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. And one of them was by Jackson. He always has one in some games. But who did they have as their quarterback in Indianapolis? Gardner Minshew. And even though he was sacked 5 times, he still passed for 227 yards. And his running back, Zach Moss, really helped him. But he just really did a great job. And to come in and beat the Ravens, what a great, great statement that was. Now the Jets. Oh, the Jets. So everyone is seriously just trashing Zach Wilson. And am I going to get on that bandwagon too since they lost, Aaron Rodgers? Well, their game was pretty terrible. Zach Wilson, he just tries these Hail Marys. He tries them with a second remaining on the clock. He seems to not understand how to kind of make things happen, and the offense is just not helping. So New England beat them 15-10 over the Jets, and it was a bad game. And a lot of people are calling for Zach Wilson's head. They just don't want him even starting again ever. And now you kind of know why he isn't. So Detroit, it seems like they found their mojo again with a 20-6 win over the Falcons, and we'll see how that continues. Green Bay over New Orleans. Oh, man. So Derek Carr was hurt. He got his shoulder hurt, and he left due to injury. It looks like he may be out for a couple of games coming up. But there was just, I don't know, the Green Bay Packers, Jordan Love, there were 3 straight scoring drives in the fourth quarter. They erased a 17-0 deficit and came back to win 18-17. That's their largest comeback victory entering the fourth quarter since I think they said the 50s. So, the underdog, you always think, not a bad idea. I'm not a Packer fan, but I am an underdog fan, so I was kind of happy about that. One of the best WTF moments was Arizona Cardinals, and shout out to Josh Dobbs. I like that kid, He's filling in until Kyler Murray can get back. He is a rocket scientist by trade, and what he graduated in high school or college from, probably both. And he just did his job. 28-16 over Dallas. Everyone already has packed up Dallas and sending them to the Super Bowl. Not so much. They did terrible. So, they did have 3 offensive line starters that were out due to injury, but they were so sloppy. Miscommunication in the secondary, 13 penalties, and, an inefficient red zone offense. So it was just really terrible. And congratulations to Josh Dobbs. I just was really happy for him. I'm not even going to mention the Chiefs over the Bears because I'm sick of talking about Taylor Swift. I'm not a Swiftie. And even when you look at all of the blogs, that's all they talk about is Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. Who cares? This is football. Who cares? He's going to be a great 20th album for her. She gets bored. Let's move on. Seattle 37-27 for Carolina. And I was really hoping the Panthers might kick it out. But let's get to the Pittsburgh game. I know you've probably already heard, Joe talk about this, but they just really came out in Vegas. They just, finally showed their spark on offense. It came alive, going 3 and out on the first 2 possessions. We got a 72-yard touchdown pass from Kenny Pickett to Calvin Austin. What a speedster. I forgot about him. Calvin Austin III, I forgot about him because he got hurt last season in preseason, and now he's back. And, oh, man, is he fast. But Pickett did a good job of getting everyone involved. 5 different receivers getting catches. George Pickens, he should be happy, 4 catches for 74 yards. And we also got a touchdown from Freiermuth. And so I think we are the dark horse that everyone is counting out because the defense just, again, 4 sacks, 3 turnovers. And good for Eli Wallace. He has had a couple of rough weeks. And I was like, who can we get in there from some high school or off the street? Because he just had a terrible time. But he came to play. And two of those interceptions were from him. But the thing that was WTF for this game, I mean, I was so mad. First of all, when there was a tackle from Minka to Garoppolo, and it was a sack, really, it was not a roughing the passer, but I've never seen anyone go down and flop so well, that's not in basketball, as Jimmy Garoppolo. And when they called it, you see the TV, Terry McLaughlin, he was like, no, that's not a penalty. And the NFL then came out and said, no, that probably, they always tread lightly. No, that probably isn't a penalty. It wasn't a penalty. That's ridiculous. And then they throw down Kenny Pickett, hit his head on the ground, hit him in the face, and no call at all. They don't even look at it. It's like they don't even look in his direction. I'm getting tired of the bias. And it was just so bad. And especially when they did it right when we were, when they were kind of driving down, but it was on a 3rd down play, and we pushed him back, and it was just terrible. They just absolutely, when I'm saying I'm saying the referees, they did one of the worst jobs I've seen in a long time. So it was unfortunate because they're trying to decide games for, people, and that's not okay. It's just not okay. One of the things that I wanted to mention as well is in the Chargers game, this is another reason why the Minnesota Vikings should have won, is that Brian Staley and the Chargers, he went for it on 4th down, and he didn't get it, and then he gives it back to Minnesota, and it was weird. It made no sense. It was at the time that he went for it, but it didn't make as much nonsense as Vegas kicking a field goal with 2 minutes and 21 seconds left. Okay, so what's that about? You're down by 1 score, touchdown and 2, and 2 points, and you're kicking a field goal. And basically he said, well, I thought I'd get the ball back. With 21 seconds? Really? It was the weirdest play ever. I mean, we appreciate it. Thank you from all, Pittsburgh fans. But it was just the weirdest thing ever. I don't think I ever seen anything like that. So some of the coaching decisions are definitely WTF moments. But that was one head scratcher, if I have to say anything. Okay, everyone. I want to shout out a couple of great just moments in the Steeler game because I think this is what the football worthy, and that is Percy Harvin. We have a great punter that just really did his job. And remember, he's also the holder for the field goal, so he does a great job there. And then just really, Kenny doing his job, Chris Boswell, our special teams guys, they just really came to play, and it was a really good team win. So until next week, and we'll be in week 4, everyone, make it a great day. And thank you for listening to the WTF podcast.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.